How on earth did BZ Watchdog find us, and is there any end in sight?
Okay, BZ Watchdog. So, BZ Watchdog was alerted to the city of Hillsboro because of an interaction that someone he knew had with one of our police officers. This person is not a journalist. Journalists do fact checking for a lot of things. I don't really look at all this stuff, but from what I have seen, it is the vast majority of things listed as facts are not factually true. An accusation of widespread theft at the outlet mall. He got this based on an open records request where he requested, anything with theft or sexual harassment. So one of the things that we sent him was an email that I had received from a professional association offering training on sexual harassment. There sure was an email to me about sexual harassment, right? And yes, we have to turn over our texts. A journalist would contact the city and would go, hey, what can you tell me about this apparent theft? Someone could argue with me, but I just don't think it's the city's role to go back and forth with this person.
BZ Watchdog News Network.
All right, folks, just when I think I've finally escaped the gravitational pull of the city of Hillsboro, bam, they fire up the bat signal and drag me right back in. So let me get this straight. I make a post online calling out the city manager for 5 years of managerial incompetence. My opinion, backed by facts. And 2 days later, the Chamber of Commerce rolls out an RSVP-only invite your friends damage control barbecue called, I kid you not, Grill the City Manager. Oh yeah, nothing says transparency like a private event hosted by your besties where the public is conveniently locked out and the questions are probably pre-approved like a kindergarten spelling test. Now here's where it gets real interesting. Instead of keeping it professional, instead of letting the facts speak, we get statements and conduct that, in my opinion, don't just look reckless. They potentially open the city and the city manager up to a defamation exposure, both individually and in an official capacity. And Hillsboro, listen closely. When a public official starts making statements about a journalist instead of addressing the issues, that's not leadership. That's panic. Just when I think I'm done with Hillsboro, Hillsboro looks at me and says, no, BZ, we're not done with you. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm a reasonable guy. This whole thing could probably be resolved real easy. An apology, a public correction, some accountability, no litigation, real simple. But until then, I'm here, the camera's rolling, and the sunlight is on, baby. Before we get into today's video, smash that like button, drop a comment, share this everywhere, subscribe on YouTube, follow on Facebook for real-time updates, because this isn't gossip. This isn't drama. This is government accountability. And Hillsboro just can't stop auditioning for the spotlight. Let's roll with it.
When you work for the city, you're very conscious of what the city can do and what the city can't do. People assume that as the city government, we have wide-reaching power to, bring in the businesses that we want or keep other businesses out. And we are very deeply limited by our financial capacity and also what we have the authority to do. This is what my role is. People periodically will ask me, what is your vision for Hillsboro? And while I have a lot of ideas, it is not my job to have a vision for Hillsboro. In fact, it is my job not to. My role is to be the midwife. I am not the mama. My role is to stand by the side and say push.
For that team, and if you're going to be the team captain, you got to go find out what's going on with the players.
And my job is to just provide technical expertise and encouragement along the way, and to run the staff of city employees who are working that vision hopefully into reality for who I am and what I do. The other thing I'll say is that a lot of what we're doing today as a city comes from our strategic plan. Now we're in the middle of a comprehensive plan. We're in the middle of a comprehensive plan. A comprehensive plan is very technical. It's lots of engineering and maps. The strategic plan is more of a gut check. Where are we going? Who do we want to be in 10 years? What is going to make Hillsboro, still all the things that we love, but better, stronger, healthier, more vibrant? And we asked the community, again, I'm not the mama, we asked the community to tell us what that looked like. And those priorities are what we have been busy enacting ever since. So number one was fix the streets. Number two, do something about the outlet mall. We are absolutely doing that. Okay, so the question is outlet mall. What's happening at the outlet mall? As you know, the city owns 2/3 of that property. The developer owns 1/3 of that property. The strip along the access road, and I looked today because I expected to get a question about it. And the strip along the access road that the developer owns is now valued by the appraisal district more than the entire mall was 3 years ago before we bought it from the previous owner. So already, even with 2/3 of it being non-taxable because the city owns it, we are already doing better from a property tax perspective. In that strip along the access road, this is 300 feet deep from the access road all the way down the length of the mall. What is coming in is going from top down, see if I can remember the right order, Chick-fil-A, Panda Express, Chili's, and then on the south side, Waffle House. We have a coffee user that will be coming in, and the developer is currently talking to one other restaurant, fast food type, fast casual, and one retailer. We're interested in getting the first retailer in because obviously retail isn't what it used to be. Amazon has made it such that lots of retailers are not really expanding, but we think it's important to have a retail component because the community has told us you guys don't want to have to drive out of town to get the things that you want. And on the back part of the mall, behind that 300-foot strip where there will be these individual businesses, on the southern half, we will probably have some kind of warehousing distribution. I realize that's not exciting to anybody in this room. None of us, that doesn't mean we can go shopping anywhere. But the thing is, you need a certain amount of property value to make the rest of the deal make sense. And retail, as much as we like it, it makes our lives more convenient. Retail does not generate as much property tax value as it costs to maintain all of the infrastructure over time. So the warehousing logistics bit, we agreed to with the developer in the beginning as sort of like a last resort, like the worst case scenario, there's a chunk of warehousing distribution because everybody knows that makes financial sense and it makes the thing work. If we got a big box there, that would be better. We just don't know that we will. So I know the developer is talking to larger retailers that could potentially go there, but I think what we are prepared for and what I want the community to be prepared for is like warehousing distribution on that southern half. On the northern half, we are keeping 2 buildings. The one we affectionately refer to as the Mallmageddon building, and the one that many of us older folks will remember as the Gap. Those 2 buildings are staying. Bath and Body Works has moved into that Gap building. And we will be tenanting those buildings with what we would consider to be intermediate retail uses, meaning they're going to make sense for the next 5, 10, maybe 15 years. Hopefully before 15 years, HEB or somebody like that is interested in coming to Hillsboro. And in that case, we've already got the land assembled and ready for them to locate. And then we're just moving individual businesses into different spaces in town or in the development in order to keep those businesses and still have that big box. So that's kind of the long-term plan. One of the questions that I know people are wondering about is the cost of demolition. The demolition is costing about $1.5 million. So not cheap. We were very, very hopeful that it would be less than that. What they've found is that some of the piers underground, these concrete piers that are part of the building's structural formation, were bell-shaped. That thing was solid. So like the lower down they go, the bigger it gets. They're like, oh man, this is really, affecting the cost of pulling all that stuff out and removing it. So $1.5 million worth of demolition. Obviously, we had cost of property purchase when we purchased it.
Let me ask you this. How much did you guys seriously pay for that outlet mall?
I would have to go back into the contract and look.
The developer will pay us more for the property than we paid for it. So we will make our money back and then some on the southern and northern back pieces of the property when the developer draws those down to do those future phases. In the meantime, counting all of the demolition costs and everything, we are still projected to be revenue positive by 2030. So by 2030, and that is just including the businesses that have already signed up. So even without the distribution, we are projected to be in the black by that point. So yes, it is expensive. Yes, people can ask like, couldn't you be fixing streets with that money? The answer is $1.5 million, like, doesn't really get you a lot of street. And in the meantime, by investing it now, we'll have broken even in another 5 years. And then after that, we're going to have more money for streets every year after that forever because we did this. So, that's sort of the reasoning. It's not an either or. It's to say, if you're not looking at next year and the year after that, but 20 years, 30 years, 40 years down the line, what do we need to be doing now so that 30 years from now, things are great and getting better? And it's a long game. When we did the deal in the first place, the developer said it will take 3 years before anything is done. And then, 12 months later, people were saying they said they were going to do stuff at the mall and nothing is happening and they're all liars. Guys, it just takes a long time. I mean, you can use the word excuse, but we are describing the way things actually happen in the world. And people who do things like this know that this is the kind of time that it takes. If you're talking to somebody that's like, why can't they get it done in 6 months? That guy probably didn't ever build anything. I mean, we are not staffed for immediate response. We are staffed for the long game. We are staffed for constant over years and decades. And that is trying to strike the right balance between keeping costs down and keeping quality up. And honestly, I would tell you that where we made mistakes in the past and getting that balance wrong is by trying too hard to keep costs down because we also kept quality down. Number 3, come up with some more entertainment options. We've been working on that. So question was about the Texas Theater. This is a love it or hate it kind of a situation.
I found an article about the Texas Theater thing, and that wasn't mentioned. I guess you guys bought or leased out the Texas Theater or something like that?
Yeah, we've leased it.
So, do you guys own it?
No.
What? I'm sorry.
No, we do not own it.
Okay, but you leased it, meaning that you guys rented it,
Yes.
and it was just for like an event, or was it like for like a long-term thing?
No, we've leased it through December of this year.
Okay, so
The idea was that we would do some modest I mean, it's been in the paper and stuff. The idea is that we would do some modest improvements and sort of gauge community interest in trying to do a project to, revitalize it enough that there could be entertainment activities happening there. As it happens, by the time we got the Texas Historical Commission in to look at it, they advised us to have a structural engineer review. So then we have to go and do a procurement process for a structural engineer, blah, 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 blah. So we've not been able to make speedy progress. But in the meantime, there's been a ton of community interest in there being stuff at the Texas Theater. I mean, entertainment is one of the top community priorities. So
now, did you guys?
We're still exploring it, but yeah, the idea was we don't want to haul off and buy it. We want to be sort of more gentle in trying to figure out if something is feasible, because we know the community wants it, but it could be pretty expensive.
Now, did you guys? No, you guys like signed a contract to lease it, right? Like an actual formal contract. Okay.
Yes.
And then how long was that? Was that just a 1-year lease? Because I don't remember when the article was. I don't know if that was last year or 2 years ago.
Let's see.
Because the city owned the what we call a records building, it was municipal court building, black marble structure on Waco Street. We knew that we could move those records and store them more efficiently somewhere else, and so we did not need to keep that building. We listed it for sale, and the owners of the Texas Theater offered us to swap it, and the city council said yes. So the city will, and the transaction has not officially taken place yet, but the city will be the owners of the Texas Theater. There are a couple of things that make sense. Number one, this is what you guys said you wanted. You said you wanted entertainment. We are guided by that strategic plan, and one of the very, very top things people said they wanted is more entertainment options. What that means is we've been out trying to find entertainment businesses that are willing to come to Hillsboro. We visited other communities because it's not going to be, I'm sorry to break this to you, it's not going to be Main Event. They go into big markets. It's not going to be Putt Putt. It's not going to be a brand that you've heard of. The city cannot just bankroll making that a viable theater again. What we can do, and what I think it makes sense for us to do with city funds, is to prevent our one and only historic theater building from falling into disrepair and being lost. Demolition by neglect. So we can put a roof on it. We can put probably HVAC, but in terms of making it awesome inside, I'm not sure that the political will is there to spend city resources at that level. So something that is an indoor version of the yard, where when it's really, really hot or really, really cold, you can bring your lawn chair inside and hear a concert. I think the city could get that done for a couple $100,000. And because this is a historic building and can serve, provide some resources to visitors, it is an eligible use of hotel occupancy tax, which cannot be spent on street repair or drainage or police and fire or any of our other critical needs. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't need it for other things. We do. So I want to be very clear that we're limiting, but it's not, are you putting money into the theater and not fixing my street? Really, it's just expensive to build houses these days. And for a developer who is paying to put in water lines and sewer lines and streets, the cost of that lot before you've put anything on it at all is pretty expensive. If you've got, a local developer that bought, city just let go of a few lots that the city owned. You know, so I think one of those lots may have gone for $5,000 and it's already got water lines and sewer lines and streets to it. You can deduct all of those costs and have a lower cost of house. That's part of why we're so anxious to see redevelopment in the core of our city, because we're already maintaining that infrastructure. That will just give us more neighbors to help us pay for what we've already got to take care of. Yeah, great question. So the wastewater system, our treatment plant operates at roughly 60% of capacity. So theoretically, we have capacity at the wastewater treatment plant. The problem is when there's a big rain event, we do have what's called infiltration and inflow into that system, and it increases the flow into the plant. So we have an engineering firm assessing our so the wastewater system is divided into basins because it's all gravity. So you have a basin that feeds into an area, and then it either gravity feeds to the next basin or there's a lift station to get it out into the plant. We have an engineering firm looking at all of the lines and manholes in our most vulnerable basins to help us identify where we can do projects that will reduce that infiltration and inflow. The new developments themselves are, for the most part, putting in their own infrastructure. So that infrastructure will be great. They'll have great water lines and sewer lines and streets. It's not like it's all stacking on top of each other. So raise your hand if the phrase west of Cho triggers you. Okay. If you live west of Cho, your water is interrupted fairly frequently. If you don't, it's not. None of this new development is going into the area served by the downtown water tower, that area that is west of Cho. So those other, the water towers create little mini separate water systems. They are connected, but they don't affect each other really. And so the area that's served by the downtown tower is the oldest, the least reliable, the most leaky, the most problematic. The Somerset edition is going to be served by the College Tower, which is it's not literally the newest because we just built a new industrial water tower, but it is a very newer system with better pressure, and it's just not it's not vulnerable in the same way that the historic system is. However, because all of the water that we don't use, we still have to pay for. The more of the water that we already have to pay for, we actually use and bill for, the more money we have to fix water leaks. So people think, oh, you're bringing in more people, you're adding more users to a leaky system, that's bad. No. We're adding more payers to an underfunded system. That's very, very good. The lines that are in those new developments, we're not going to be out there fixing leaks, but we're going to be collecting those water bill payments. And the money from those water bill payments are going to pay people to go fix the leaks west of Cho. So that's going to help things get better. It's not the main thing, but it is a help, not a hindrance.
Then I don't know. I don't think that you're in the interest of the people. I mean, a 20% water tax after y'all just lied and said 17%? Whew. You guys keep lying to these people. Nothing comes out of y'all's mouth is truthful. When you tell them one thing, you turn around and say and do another.
So let me ask you something. What if we just said, you know what? We can't charge people a workable water rate, so we're just going to stop. We're just going to turn it all off, and there won't be water anymore.
Okay, but that's not what
another water supplier.
That's not what you proposed. You proposed a 17% tax increase, and your stupid finance director said, well, it could be more. Well, yeah, it's more after you snuck it in.
We are going to have to raise water rates again. We expect that to be around a 17% increase. And so we'll be bringing you those rate changes when we bring the budget.
And most of some of that accrual change is they could have went up higher.
That very deceiving. That is a car salesman. You stood up there with him.
Basil.
You stood up there with him. Megan.
Basil. It hasn't even been voted on yet.
No, but you guys changed
All
it.
of the times that I have been talking about this, every time when I've said, I think it's going to be about or whatever, this has all been in the process of letting people know that it's coming, letting people to know what we think the estimates are right now, making sure that people aren't blindsided, making sure that they know that there's plenty of warning and there's plenty of transparency and there's plenty of just openness about the fact that this is being considered. Like, this has been so very much talked about over and over again, and we're not even voting until like almost 3 weeks from now.
But Megan, you stood up there. You didn't say a nice round number to be on the safe side and say 20. You told people 17. You did a car salesman thing. You told them a lower number than what you were really anticipating. That is deceiving.
No. I told them the number that I was anticipating because I am honest.
You could have said 17 to 20%.
We then had another month of data in a wet year where water sales are low, and we've got a letter from the Texas Water Development Board dinging us on the amount of cash that we have on hand. Conditions change.
And let me...
That same volume to the landfill in Itasca, and the deal that we have now is better than that. So while it is restricted, it is a lot better than we used to have. You can schedule, I mean, you can have them bid on doing it more frequently, but you're gonna pay the individual cost. Only by paying a lot more for trash service. Lots of top priorities turn around and become policy because that's what the citizens of Hillsboro got together in a group and said they wanted. And then, of course, the council on a day-to-day basis provides policy updates, direction to staff. So the question is, for businesses or for people, property owners, or people looking to change a business that is a designated historic landmark or part of a historic district in the city, if it's downtown, they may have to get approval from both the Historic Landmark Commission and also the Main Street Board of Directors. This seems like it's a cumbersome process because if one board says yes, the other board says no, then we got an issue. This is a great example of that's a policy situation. I'm an executor. I don't make policy, the city council makes policy, and they decide what the boards and commissions have the power to do. And those boards and commissions make decisions that direct staff. So they're the boss of me, I'm not the boss of them. It's probably not fruitful for me to get into the specifics of an individual case right now, but I'd be glad to look into that after the meeting and find out what's going on there. Because we are small, the processes ought to be simple. It is a lot more technically difficult to repair a water line or overhaul miles and miles and miles of utilities. So question is about residential development coming to the city of Hillsboro. There stays somewhere between 1,500 and 1,700 units of single family housing on our expected. Sorry, so lengthy. Yes, ma'am.
Before we go, do you want to make any statement on how on earth did BZ Watchdog find us, and is there any end in sight?
Okay, BZ Watchdog. So, BZ Watchdog was alerted to the city of Hillsboro because of an interaction that someone he knew had with one of our police officers. And he initially was focused on the police department, had many things to say, some of which I think long-term we can learn from. We may not appreciate the way the message is delivered, but in some cases, we have been able to take a look at what we're doing and make improvements, and we need to be grateful for cause to improve no matter how it comes. It is also the case, however, that this person is not a journalist, that this person is not a journalist, that this person is not a journalist.
I'm a journalist. You have to give it to me.
in the sense that journalists do fact checking before they release things as true. And so there are a lot of things. I don't really look at all this stuff, but from what I have seen, it is the vast majority of things that are listed as facts are not factually true.
The only thing you've been able to call me out on is one mistake and one little error about a first-class ticket.
I didn't call you out. I asked
You
you
called
about
me
it.
out. Hey, that's questioning me. That's calling me out. You know what? And I'm glad you questioned me, because if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If it wasn't first class and I got to go look at my paperwork and I misspoke, then that's fine. It was a misspoke, and because I don't think I've actually ever misspoke. I think I've been pretty factual up until this point. So, because if that's the only thing that's still on your mind after like a month and a half, then I know that's the only thing that you got me on, and it was a misspeak, and that's fine. I can own it. I'm not perfect. Sometimes I misspeak. Sometimes I open mouth and insert foot, and that was one of my moments, I guess. And I'm glad you double checked it, and I'm glad you're calling me out if I'm wrong. That's fine. I'm okay with it. Again, I can admit when I'm wrong. But I know I'm not wrong about these other things because I've got the records. You guys have sent me the records, so.
I'll give you an example. There was an accusation of widespread theft at the outlet mall because 20 benches were removed from the outlet mall. He got this based on an open records request where he requested, anything with a keyword theft or sexual harassment, right? So one of the things that we sent him was an email that I had received from a professional association offering training on sexual harassment. Does that mean that I'm involved in sexual harassment? No, but there sure was an email to me about sexual harassment, right? So there's a text that has the word theft in the text. And yes, we have to turn over our texts. Talking about 20 benches that it said, looks like we may have 20 benches missing from the outlet mall. Come to find out, those 20 benches never belonged to us. They were on the developer's portion of the property and were removed appropriately by the demolition contractor. Now, a journalist would contact the city and would say, hey, it looks like this is, hey, what can you tell me about this apparent theft? And the city would have the opportunity to say, there was no theft, that wasn't city property.
You sit on a throne of lies.
That's a lie.
A liar.
That lying bitch. Liar! She's a goddamn liar!
That was a lie, pal. He's a liar.
But that's not what happens. It's what is going to have the greatest appearance of sensation. And then that's the direction given. And, someone could argue with me, but I just don't think it's the city's role to go back and forth with this person. We've got real work to do in the world.
BZ Watchdog News Network. BZ Watchdog.